A foldable phone with almost no visible crease might arrive sooner than anyone expected, and surprisingly, it might not come from Apple or Samsung. Instead, Oppo has just dropped the first official teaser for the Oppo Find N6, and it's making a bold promise: an ultra-flat, ultra-flexible foldable display with a zero-feel crease. Before we jump in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It really helps me keep bringing you more tech breakdowns like this one. If that claim holds up in the real world, it could change the conversation around foldable phones entirely. For years, the crease has been the one thing people complain about when it comes to foldables. Even the best devices still show that subtle line running down the center of the screen. Most users get used to it pretty quickly, but it's always been a reminder that the technology isn't perfect yet. And that's why this teaser matters. There have been persistent rumors that Apple wants its first foldable iPhone to launch with a nearly invisible crease, almost like a big breakthrough moment for the category. Meanwhile, Samsung has already shown prototype displays that reduce the crease dramatically. But now it looks like Oppo might beat both of them to the punch. The teaser video is short, but it reveals just enough to spark excitement. The phone is shown briefly unfolded and from the side, and the first thing you notice is how ridiculously thin it looks. If the final product matches what we see here, the Find N6 could become one of the sleekest foldables ever built. And that's saying a lot, because the previous model, the Oppo Find N5, was already incredibly slim, at around 4.21 millimeters when unfolded. So the new design is likely pushing the limits even further. But the real headline feature is the display. Oppo claims the Find N6 will offer a zero-feel crease. That doesn't necessarily mean the crease completely disappears under extreme lighting, but it suggests something much more important. You might not feel it when you swipe across the screen. And if that turns out to be true, it's a huge step forward. Because when you're actually using a foldable, scrolling, typing, watching videos, the physical feel of the crease matters just as much as how it looks. Now, the Find N6 isn't just about the screen. Oppo is clearly positioning it as a full flagship device. One of the biggest upgrades expected is the camera system. Reports point to a 200-megapixel camera developed with Hasselblad, which could push foldable photography into the same league as the best traditional flagship phones. That's significant because foldables have historically lagged behind in camera quality compared to standard premium phones. A high-end sensor paired with Hasselblad tuning could close that gap. Another interesting addition is something called the Oppo AI Pen, essentially a stylus designed to work with the foldable display. That suggests Oppo wants the N6 to double as a productivity device, giving users the ability to write, sketch, or annotate directly on the large, unfolded screen. Under the hood, the phone is expected to run on the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 chipset built by Qualcomm. If that rumor is accurate, performance shouldn't be a concern at all. That chip will likely power some of the fastest Android phones of the year. Combine that with a large battery and premium software features, and the Find N6 starts to look like a true top-tier flagship, not just a niche foldable experiment. And that brings up an interesting question. Foldable phones are still a relatively small segment of the smartphone market, but the category is evolving quickly. Companies are experimenting with new shapes and designs, including trifold devices recently introduced by Huawei and Samsung. That means the traditional book-style foldable, the kind that opens like a small tablet, needs to keep improving to stay relevant. If Oppo really has solved the crease problem while making the device thinner and more powerful, the Find N6 could easily become the new benchmark for foldables. Of course, the big question is whether it's worth upgrading if you already own the Find N5. The previous model was already one of the best foldables on the market. The crease wasn't very noticeable, the design was elegant, and the hardware was strong. For many users, it was already good enough. But technology moves quickly. A thinner body, a near-invisible crease, a massive camera upgrade, and flagship-level performance could make the Find N6 feel like a meaningful step forward. And we won't have to wait long to find out. According to reliable leaks, Oppo is expected to officially launch the Find N6 on March 17th. The availability details are a little unclear, but early reports suggest it could reach global markets, including Europe, which would make it easier for international buyers to get their hands on one. So, if you've been waiting for a foldable that finally feels like a normal phone when unfolded, without that distracting crease, this might be the moment to watch. Because if Oppo delivers on what it's teasing, the Find N6 might not just be another foldable. It could be the device that finally perfects the foldable display. What's your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next video. Take care.